Hannah Sumner, welcome to the Chasing Creativity podcast.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
How's it going?
So good.
So we just had like all the issues in the world, but we fixed every technical issue known to man.
Maybe we did.
Maybe we didn't. No one will ever know.
No one will know except for the end results.
Exactly. No, but
hopefully you get a lot of trolls, you know?
I know.
You get, and they're just like, the audio on this is just like not.
I was thinking about that. Like, I think you have to be real famous to just like, I think there's this weird thing where when you're still starting out, people will look at something and they don't even care enough to like bring negative comments. So you just get nothing. And then it goes from negative or zero to like, if someone's famous, then it's just negative comments. I mean, it's.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
no,
it's
that's
weird.
How I knew that I was like doing the right thing is when I started to get like just hate on some YouTube videos. And I was like, all right. All right.
I love that. That's it, right? It's like once the hate comes out, it's like, oh, I'm really doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to have nothing. That's like when, okay, got to keep working. Yeah.
What a world.
I know. It is a weird world. And this whole video thing, and that's why I was having so many technical issues before this, is like all the video stuff, which I'm really stoked to have a YouTube channel for this now, but me not being super detail oriented, I want to not screw anything up. So anyways, I'm glad we got it sorted out. But I mean, jumping into this, I'm really stoked that you reached out to me and we got to talking about doing a podcast. We're doing this because you just had a couple of new releases come out recently, which I've listened to. I'm really stoked to get into. So I think this is going to be a really cool podcast. Yeah. So why don't we start there? I mean, let's talk about, you have two recent things that just came out with Simeon Walker. Yeah.
Yeah, so Found was the first one. So Simeon is someone that I reached out to over the internet. I just heard his piano playing and I thought it was so beautiful. And I was just like, hey, so I think you're really great. Would you like to maybe do something together?
Yeah.
And this all started because I did an EP called Guest House. And my whole thing was that I wanted to reach out to people and collaborate with a different producer or a different artist for each one.
Cool.
And that ended up being really amazing. I didn't, know what was going to happen afterwards, but it was so great. All of the people that I've worked with pretty much on that EP have gone on to do amazing things. Julian Marshall, Jameson Nathan Jones. It's just insane. Every time I work with these piano players, they're just whoop. I just know that piano. I'm just like, okay. And then with that, then they would post it on their social media. And so it was just, it was this whole community that got started. And I didn't even realize that I was becoming a part of it. But then I did. And everyone's so just supportive.
Yeah.
Every time anyone has a new release, we're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
So it's pretty great. And Found with Simeon, like that ended up being... the BBC picked it up and it went pretty far on their radio list, and it was really cool to hear just all the British people being like, Hannah Sumner. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't actually realize that. That's super, super cool.
Yeah. It was played on quite a few of their stations. So it was picked up on the local one in Leeds and then it went up to one of the main levels. So it was really, really, really awesome.
That's so cool. You have to save that,
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
And the guy was just like, and it's pretty darn good. and everyone was like, for British people, that's a huge compliment.
That's
I was like,
big.
That's okay.
Big. Yeah.
I was like, oh. Meanwhile, I'm over here just like feeling every emotion and verbalizing it at all times. So yeah, they would just be like, that's crass American, but
That's so cool. Yeah, I had no idea. And it's funny because this whole little world is so interesting because I kind of stumbled into it as we were talking about before this podcast, just interviewing Philip was the first. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And you're right. I mean, everyone's super nice, super supportive. And then as I was going through and re-listening to all your music, kind of getting ready for the podcast, I stumbled upon the track that was on Guest House with Jameson. And that is like for me, I mean, that's beautiful. They all are beautiful, but that just went in like the pile over here where there's like amazing tracks, and then there's like, holy shit, that is just
Aw.
yeah, for
yeah,
real.
Jameson and I did one on his track too that ended up like getting quite a lot of play. It got picked
Yeah.
up on a huge YouTube channel. Yeah, it was called Fallen, and that one a lot of people seem to respond to as well on his side. So that's what I did a lot of the times was I would like, oh, I'll do one for you and you can do one for me, and that kind of thing. And Jameson is just like, I've never spoken to him in real life, not even FaceTimed, and he hardly shows his face on the internet. So, but he's just a wonderful human being from what I can tell.
Yeah. I mean, everyone in this little world has just been super cool and super supportive. So it's something that I feel like comes up on this podcast a lot, and it's spoken about, and it should be, but just seeing the support within the music community for one another when there's outlets now and there's ways to communicate like Instagram or whatever it is so cool, because you build out these like little communities, you get to know one another, and then as you're mentioning, like when a release comes out, everyone's like so supportive, and it's super, super cool. So one thing that it's almost kind of funny, because you and I were talking for quite a bit before you even started doing this, but you were mentioning that when you go in and start working on these tracks, it's just like a dump of emotion, like this conscious flow going into it. So what's that like, and how's it been specifically for these kind of recent releases?
For these recent releases, so when I was making these tracks, Found was I had like one little crush, little spark, and I was like, and then he sent me this beautiful piano track, and then I was thinking about how sweet it is when you've gone through this whole messy part of your youth, and then you find someone that makes you I don't know, could be worth the time. And then it's like, oh, in this mess you found me, you know what I mean? It's like that's how it ends, that's that closing lyric, and it's just, and that's because that's kind of how it is, and I definitely feel that in New York, where it's just like crazy, and there's definitely a mess going on. And then you just every once in a while you just meet people, whether it be a friend or whatever, and it's the connections that you make that make it bearable. And then with I Never Thought, the one that I just put out, that one I wrote when I was in a very deep place of depression. I took a clip actually from Found. I took like a little phrase, and then I tuned it down, and then I just made a kick drum and a couple synths, and then I just vomited my feelings out. And the chorus is, I never thought that I'd still be here with the same old thoughts, which, I don't know if it's like whatever, but and it's basically, I just had my birthday, and I always get sad after my birthday, but this birthday was awesome because I was like at Houghton Festival, and I was in England, and I was like, woo, this is so great, I'm at a music festival, I'm like performing, so like that was great, but then I got back, and I was like, so, and then I was, and then my computer, just everything like happened at once,
right,
and then I wrote that song, I Never Thought, and it was just that is the first and only take, and then I added harmonies to it later.
Man, that's so cool. It's so cool when you
I did it on an SM58. Like, I didn't even set up. I was just like, I just need to do this, and that's I was like, I've done a lot of recordings on just like a little Shure microphone, and sometimes I think it's because my voice is so clear that I like to kind of have it go through something that's not, I don't like to go through, like, sometimes the best microphones on me, it's just not good. I prefer to, and I know that like people like Radiohead and Fiona Apple and even Taylor Swift, I know they like to go through dynamic mics too, so it's just,
that's sick. Well, I love that. One, taking a step back, I never really would have. Actually, one thing to mention too. This is the first time I've been able to speak with someone who is more in that world of singing songwriting. There's been a couple people previously who have been mostly producers, but then have done a couple songs that they sung on, which is really cool. But to hear your perspective, where it's like this flow of consciousness, it's like in the moment, what comes out is so fascinating to me, because I honestly would have thought, and I'm sure everyone's process is a bit different, but I would have thought it would not have maybe been that way. But it's so cool that you can get into a space where you are kind of removing some boundaries and just jumping in and seeing what comes out and letting this kind of flow through you. And then, as you mentioned with this most recent track, it was like one take and that's it. I mean, that's so cool.
Yeah. And it depends on how good the artist is that I'm working with too, or the producer. That always makes it easier. And a lot of times it's like the first verse and the chorus, and then the second verse I'll kind of have to tweak and think about. But also, it's funny you said boundaries, because I definitely don't have any. So that's probably why. It's probably why I just like, but yeah. So
well, you find what works for you. That's so cool, because like you find what balances with your personality, or over this lifetime of being a songwriter and being a singer, you found that in these times where you're just letting everything out, that's when you probably get the most feedback of like, this is really, really cool, you know?
Yeah, but also there are times when I like write tracks for TV or something and they don't have my name on it. They're just a work for hire. And those, a lot of times I have to work harder on, because it's not...
Right.
And harder, I mean like I do 3 takes or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just mean like, they ask for something specific. They're like, we want this subject matter and this kind of thing. And the producer sends me a track and it's like, oomps, oomps. And I'm just like, okay, da-da-da. So, yeah.
That's cool.
And then, and they're like, oh, we wanted to talk about like fast cars and making a lot of money. And I'm like, cool. Yeah.
I love that. That's so funny.
So, got to pay for the bills,
Yeah. Well, that's something that I've been super interested in, is like, because I think a lot of people who are in this world of writing music for their own or for themselves, or collaborating and putting out their own tracks, there's this unfortunate reality that unless you're touring or selling a lot of merch, it doesn't pay a lot. So I want to be in that world where, okay, I can be creating something, but I'm also doing something related to music that pays the bills, as you mentioned. So what's that like? I mean, I would think that having these creative paths of making music you want, but then also being like, oh, I just recorded a vocal track for a car commercial, be really fucking cool. So how did you get introduced into that world, and what's that like?
I met this producer in college, and then we relinked, and she's she's just awesome to work with. She's a Leo too, so we're always like, yeah, we're the best. Yeah, this like all the comments will just be like, this girl's really full of herself, and I'll be like, I have a PhD in self-loathing. This is like,
yeah.
So no, but anyways, woo. All right, anyways, yeah, no, but I also teach.
That's cool.
Let's see. I teach, and then I do performances with whole ensembles, and I produce shows, and I do immersive theater. I really do pretty much anything to do with voice.
Yeah.
And I also engineer and help my students songwrite. I like to do the full, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the life that I've built. It was really scary and hard to build this. And it wasn't until recently that I finally paid off. But yeah, as of now, I'm knock on wood,
That's so cool.
As of now, it's going. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, seriously, because, I've had this conversation a lot. I mean, even it was funny. Last night I recorded another episode that'll be out in a week, and same thing. It's like, there's no straight path in music, but you kind of committed to this, and then things work. You put in the time, and there's this little thing here that takes up some time. It brings in, part of the portion of the pie. Then there's this thing, and then suddenly, hey, you're doing it. Like, you're working full time in music, doing what you want. I just think that's super, super cool.
It is great. And I'm so thankful to that, because I'm freelance. So and my other friends that are freelance, will be like, hey, this Tuesday, you want to go to the botanical garden?
Yeah.
It's going to be the one sunny day this week. And we can.
Right.
And it's so great. But also, I had a thought and now it's gone. All right. Anyways, next.
No. Yeah. Well, what would you say then for people in that path? They want to do something like that, but they're maybe 5-10 years behind. They're kind of just starting out, and they're interested in these things, but they don't even know where to start. They just are like, it seems like there's so many new things, or so many things that they don't have access to. It just probably seems overwhelming.
Yeah, it is really overwhelming, and it always will be, and that's something that to accept in a way. Mm-hmm. But learn how to do as much as you can for yourself. Mm-hmm. The more that you can be one in-house person, the more that and also collaborate with people right and left. I don't know. I probably collaborate too much at this point. But I really love collaborating. Mm-hmm. I love it so much. But collaborate as much as you can, but really learn everything about your field. Mm-hmm. I got into engineering my own stuff, having my own home studio, that helped. I got into teaching. I took from the best vocal coach I could find in New York, and now I teach that method. I've had several students that have been really successful. So that's, you know what I mean? It's just, and then over time, you just have to, I wish if I could go back, I could like tell myself to be nicer to myself in my head, and that I was going to have to be patient. And patience I'm not good at, and I don't think any creative person is, especially a singer, because we're just like, I was born able to do this. So like, you know what I mean? We're just like, I don't have to learn scales.
Right.
You know, it's like, we're just like, yeah, we just do this. I was born this way.
Yeah.
So to have patience is really hard.
Right.
So, but, and it'll happen. I don't know. It happens. For me, it happened the second that I was like, all right, you know, whatever. I'm just going to make sure that I'm going to, you should care less.
Yeah.
Care less. If like the more that I like was clinging onto it, and I was like, this is my identity. This is all of my worth. If I don't succeed, the more that I was like, fuck it.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of like, then it was just like, woo.
Yeah.
So, So that, and just always, because like you're gonna have to make income from so many revenue streams as a freelance artist. So
I really like the fact that you mentioned that, especially with creative people, they're not patient, because I think anyone starting out in whatever kind of creative path, it's almost like a bit entrepreneurial, because you're like, I have this idea of myself, whether it's music, whatever it is, and I'm going to turn this into something else. Maybe it could even be like painting or whatever, you know, and I'm going to make something out of this. So you have to kind of have this thought first that you're capable of doing it, going off the beaten path. And then, you know, once you start doing it, it's easy to put in some time, be like, why is nothing happening? Like I did these things. Why is you know, and then getting what I found with myself, right? So if I will have a small accomplishment with like the podcast or with music, I'm like, okay. And then my reality resets. I'm like, I'm here now and I'm unhappy. You know, like what's my next thing?
Oh yeah.
You know, and taking a moment being like, I just did the thing I wanted to do. It's a goal. Like I accomplished it. Sit in that and enjoy it, you know?
Exactly. And that's when a friend of mine pointed out, he was just like, well, then I guess it's all about the journey, isn't it? And I was like,
yeah.
Darn it. Spiritualness.
Right.
My mother's a therapist, and she's just like, you know, you got to be kind to yourself. And when you're my age, you'll see that I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah. I know.
You know,
it's hard.
Oh, it's super hard.
Yeah.
It's super hard because, like, and especially, you know, for someone like myself and I'm sure many other creatives that are just, like, feeling everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's for me, it's really, when I chose to be nicer to myself in my head was when I chose to only hang out with people and collaborate with people that made me feel good about the work I was doing and made me feel good as a person. You know, it doesn't matter how successful someone is. I would work with them, and if they would just like, you know, make me feel like a terrible, not artist, but just a terrible human being, I was just like, whoa. Yeah. And then I got those people out of my life, and it was like, well, here we go. You know what I mean? And those are the collaborators that I have. You know, I have a collaborator, Ricardo Romanero, who's a composer here in New York, and he's like my older brother. We've worked together for 4 years. The second he showed me his music, I sang on top of it, and I just improvised on top of it. He like played it for me, and I was like, this is literally everything I ever wanted. Like it was like Vespertine, you know, like electronics and orchestra, and I was just like, can I sing on this? And he was like, sure. And then I just started improvising, and then as soon as I stopped, he turned to me and he was like, I've been looking for you. And we hugged.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I like called my mom afterwards. I was like, Mom, this is the reason I moved to New York.
Yeah.
So, and like he and I are doing a bunch of projects and producing shows together, and he is just like, you know, killing it now, and he's just been so positive. Yeah. And he's just a really good person to have in my life. And it was kind of because of working with him and Jameson and Simeon and people like, and Julian Marshall and people like that. I was just like, you know what? If I was a piece of shit, this would not happen. You know what I mean? So then I was like, okay, my brain can like calm down, and I can be like nice to myself now. And maybe that's just getting older too, but I don't know. Yeah. So yeah.
It is.
You manifest your shit is all I'm saying.
I totally. No, for real. Because it is really funny when it's interesting because it takes some real kind of introspective to really be in that mindset where you I think are honest with how you're treating other people, honest with how you're speaking to yourself, honest with like the work you're putting in. But you'll find that sometimes when you're on that right path, doors just kind of start opening, and it's weird. You're like, why are these things working so easily? Versus sometimes, and I found this in my past for sure, if I'm working on the wrong thing, it's just like closed door after closed door after closed door. Not the kind of door where you're like, okay, I need to keep working. It's like, don't do this. Like, just stop, and it's so cool you mentioned that, because I think that that's true, absolutely, is based on like how you're treating yourself, how you're treating other people. That's going to really rearrange your whole life, your whole reality. The lens you look at everything through is going to change, and then you'll find that, hey, you meet like-minded people and you start working together, and then it's like this cool just growth together,
Yeah. And yes, exactly. I mean, even the members of my band that I play with live here, like half of them are more famous than I am. Like, Adam Neely is my bass player, and he is just an amazing human being, and he's got this huge YouTube following, and he has featured me on some songs, and it's, it's just these relationships that came and started, and then we were friends, and then we all, you just start bubbling, and people start making it, and they're like, hey, I want you to come along because you're my friend. People are going to work with you because they like who you are. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it is all who you know, but it's also, they're going to call you because they want to hang out. That's so fun. Like, we're musicians. That's so fun.
Yeah.
Like, you work with who you like. It's
absolutely.
So great.
Yeah. I already, it's so cool you mentioned that, because I know people, because I started with interest in like a totally different realm, and it's just kind of bled over into neoclassical and all these different areas, which is awesome. But I started with this.
Cool.
Yeah. So I started in this interest with like Mousetrap, and I realized like, I want to interview all these Mousetrap guys and all these different labels. And I know guys who put in the time over years, and people know them as this very kind, approachable producer, and they're just really experiencing a lot of success. And I've heard of other people who they're known as like kind of an asshole, and suddenly you don't see things happening, and it's like, you don't want to, of course, base your life off of that, but you need to understand that how you treat people has a huge effect. Even if you're the best artist under the world, it like, you have to, this is a people that, like, you're working with people all the time, you have to be kind to people. I mean,
it just makes your life easier, I think. I definitely have, we all have roadblocks and things that get in our way personally. And there will always be people that are not so great that make it. And we'll be like,
yeah.
And you just have to not follow them on Instagram.
Right. Just unfollow.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just like block that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, and comparison is the death of life and joy.
Yep. That's so true. Yeah.
But I mean, it's so hard not to do that. But I think the more that you do your work, and the more that like, now when I create, like, I don't have this, it's not like my whole self-worth anymore. And it's also, when I create for myself, like, I'm creating something that I really enjoy, but I also know that finished is better than perfect.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's helped me a lot. Like, I could never have put out a track that I produced and engineered and like all that. I was just like, and like, I was so nervous about it. And I always like put my own, like, I still need to work on like, having enough faith in like my own projects. But I'm like, oh my God, I hear all the things that are wrong with this. And, like, I can't believe I'm putting like all these, like, all my mixing engineer friends will be like, and I'm just like, ah. Yeah. But I did it anyways. My mom loved it.
Yep. No. That's how. Yeah. First goes to mom.
But yeah, first goes to mom. But then I also had people that would tell me the truth, to be like, oh my gosh, that's it's so great. And I was like, okay. Right. All right, cool. I will continue.
Yeah.
So
it's important to have those people, because I'll have like a small group of people that I'll send music to, and I'm like, let's see the reaction. And I've had just some stuff where I'm like, I hit it. And then they're like, and I'm like, wait, what? No,
that's the worst.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
Yeah. So it's funny, because it's good to have, you got to have that. You got to have people that are honest and in your corner, and then they're going to give you that feedback that's like, hey, go and work on these couple of things, or like, this is it, don't touch it, send it out, that kind of thing.
Yeah I know. And like, we're such sponges as humans, like, it really is. The more that I hung out with people that were good for me, or like on another level, or were really good to themselves, I was like, oh, I'm gonna wake up and jog today.
Yeah
like
Right.
Okay. Me last year was like, what? I'm gonna sleep till 11.
Oh,
And now I'm like
my dream life.
7:30. Here I go.
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah.
Like I said, yeah. No, I know, but like that's not your dream life. That's not.
No, I think, yeah, and I've thought about that too, and I think that I would, really fantasize about this idea because I work the 9 to 5 right now, and then outside work hours it's like podcast and music, right? So I thought like, man,
That's so busy.
it's very,
Oh my God.
I'm very busy.
Your poor dog. It's
My
like,
poor dog, yeah, yeah. He should be in here, but he'll be okay. But yeah, I mean, so I kind of fantasized about like, oh, if I could just work on music and podcasts all the time, right? I'd wake up at 11. But I think you probably are kind of echoing this, that like you want to get up and run, and then that's like good for your mental health, and like you're doing things you're out about. I mean, that idea it's fantasized about, but being up at 11, probably over some time you're like, this isn't good.
No, but I realized like I have to treat this like my job if
Yeah,
that's what it is. And
exactly.
a friend of mine is always like, inertia. Like the more that you put energy you put into it, the more you get. And then
Right.
like he's always like talking to me in my head every time I'm being lazy. I'm just like, right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And it is, and I mean, like even doing full-time music, you're always gonna have projects that like that pay the bills that you don't really care about, and then
Right.
but you also like pay the bills like with your passion projects too.
Yeah, totally.
Not as many of the bills, but like you do a little bit, and it's a wonderful life. It's just
Yeah.
But yeah, it just
Totally.
It takes a while to get there.
Yeah.
And it's always like meh,
Right.
meh.
Right. And I think that this podcast, it's funny because it started as like, oh, talking about creativity, which I, of course, want to do, and it comes up, but it's also become this like, what is your path, and what's this been like? Because music is, as we've spoken about, not this straightforward path. It's like, it's so, it's so just always, as you mentioned, kind of ebbs and flows, but I just love having these conversations, and I hope that people listening to these conversations too leave being a little bit inspired, because they see that, hey, you started in the same boat that other people start, where they're let's imagine 5 or 10 years back starting out, and kind of, and now you're at this place where, okay, music pays the bills, you're doing freelancing, you're doing your passion projects, you're doing collaborations, whatever, and that's so cool, because I know for myself, if I think back when I was really young, like, and there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't podcasts, I was like, oh, that's impossible. I'm just gonna go to school, I'm just whatever. But it's not, it's it's cool.
Oh my gosh, I think about that all the time, about like impossible, and like I think about, whenever I get down on myself, I just think about what mankind has accomplished, and I'm like, for me to be a full-time singer,
right,
is nothing compared to like what is impossible.
I love
you know
that.
what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think
Seriously.
about that all the time. I'm just like, for me to do whatever I want with my life, like that, there are so many things that people have done that are way, that just takes way more effort, and it just seems like you'd get way just
I love that perspective. No, absolutely. I think about okay, this is how much money I make at my job, and I like, if I could just replace that with music and podcasts or whatever, this would be fucking awesome. And then I'm like, it's not a huge amount of money that I'd have. Like, there's people playing professional basketball making hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm like, I just have to pay my bills, It's like, I just got to get there, and I'm stoked.
but then once you pay your bills, you're like, okay, but then I also have to like buy a house, and have a retirement fund,
right, a Maserati,
yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
Then it's like, well, in order for this to keep going,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I love that perspective, because it's not that like, oh, this is impossible. It's like very possible. It's just gotta think about it in creative sense, gotta work really hard, have to just like piece this together on your own. There's no one telling you what to do, but it's doable.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? I love it. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
but also I have to remind myself of that too, because like, it's so new. But I think of so many things, and I'm like, I'm so down on myself. I just can't believe in it. Like, it's so hard, but like, the more you can see it, the and get really focused and fine tuned on exactly what you want, I think
Yeah.
the better. Because like like seriously, I've manifested so many things. I manifested meeting Ricardo, the composer I talked about earlier. When I
Yeah.
first moved to New York, I didn't know anyone, so I'd go to the Met all the time because you
Oh,
could pay
yeah.
whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and I was so poor, I would just like go there, and I remember I would walk through and I would look at those like mansions on Park Avenue and
Yeah.
just be like, you know what? I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to own one, but I'm definitely going to be performing at one of these.
Yeah.
And then Ricardo's studio is literally
That's so
at
cool.
this museum
I
that is
love
this
that.
mansion across the street from the Met.
Yeah.
Like, and I would just like sit there on the stairs looking at it. And then like his studio is across the street, like
Yeah.
in this like mansion. And it's like,
That's so sick.
you know, because he has like an artist residency there. So
Right.
it's like, yeah.
I'm
it's so
convinced
funny.
that this podcast is just bringing like magic people like you, like I'm being honest, like to be able to manifest stuff like that. And I totally believe in that stuff. I really feel like that's some crazy stuff. And there's been other conversations on this podcast where it's like, this is what I wanted to do. And then they look back and they're like, it was really weird that it worked out in that specific scenario. And I'm starting to get this feeling of like, how am I meeting all these people that like have these in a really cool way, but like have these experiences where it's like that was too weird to just like leave up to chance.
Yeah, but then I'm so upset because I spent like so many years just being so mean to myself in my head. Like, who knows what I manifested? Jesus,
right?
You know what I mean? The mind is like is so powerful, and I just remember being a kid. Like I could just focus because you have nothing to worry about when you're a kid. So you're just like, this is what I want, and I will do whatever it takes.
Yeah,
and I will get that. You know, and it's just like okay, and then yeah, you get older and you just get kind of caught up in all the stuff, which is why, you know, you gotta meditate and like take care of yourself and like do stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, the mind's a powerful thing. It's fucking
it's a very powerful thing. Yeah, I remember I told someone when I first got to New York too, a producer sat me down and asked me, he was like, so what kind of artist do you want to be? And I was telling him about the stage that I saw. I was like, so there's gonna be like these visuals and these like boxes that light up. And then literally I can send you a photo. Like with Ricardo, we do audio visual experiences that are totally immersive, and we have these light boxes and like full visuals, and I'm just like, huh.
Oh, that's funny. So cool.
That's funny. Yeah.
I think that stuff is so. I think thinking about what you want is super important. Like not in the sense of like, oh, I want to be. If someone leaves it very ambiguous, like I want to be a professional music producer, or whatever. That's too open ended. Like if you're thinking about like this is what I want to see at this time period in my life, like have those kind of visual associations with it, and like this is what I want, you're thinking about it more. And it's not that I think that I can start thinking about a Ferrari and it's going to happen, but if you're thinking about these things, then you're like acting more. You have a path now. You've set the path, and you can start piecing these things together. You have to have both. You have to have that visual component, but also the action behind it too.
Yes, but then let's also not forget that the world is also fucked, and also like 1% of the population has like all the money in the world.
Very true.
So we're also not going to put that away. I'm just saying like I love all this manifestation shit, but also like I just want to acknowledge that like you don't always get everything that you just like say or you write on your whiteboard. I know I've done it many a time. I literally took my whiteboard down because it was back here and it says like some very like believe in yourself.
Yeah.
If you can imagine it. Like that's literally what I wake up to and look at, but I took it down so that like the YouTube wouldn't, know.
Yeah. No, I had the same thing when I was in undergrad. I've taken kind of a
Sorry, I just
No,
took
it's
it to,
okay.
like,
No, not at all. No. I mean, it's true. It's honestly true. And
I mean, I just don't want but also like you can't be hard, like I don't know, it's this weird balance of
it's
just
a balance.
letting go. You can't be like, "Oh, well I wanted to manifest this and, yada yada." But cuz it's cuz there are like things that happen in life that that aren't out of your control.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I just and no, I totally agree, but I think in the same conversation the people that the people out there that are working on whatever it is, they're going to find success in some it might not be like straight A to B. It might be like, here and here.
Won't.
And it'll be something. But then you'll look back and you'll be like, I did what I wanted to do. And it kind of took me in this strange trajectory, but I really did it. And it comes down to, I think, that hard work and that vision. Because I do, like, that's one thing where I kind of will play within my head. It's like, okay, if you have... If someone is setting out to do something and they just put the time into it, are there a group of people out there that just are objective with their hard work? They work really, really hard, and then they just find no success. And that I just don't believe that's true. I believe that something is going to work out. You just have to keep working at it. it's going to take you in a weird path. But if you're working hard, you're objective with yourself. Yeah.
And you might not land exactly where you thought, you know, maybe
Right.
you end up getting more on the production side instead of,
Exactly.
you know, the front person.
Yeah.
You know, I have friends, and also like being a musician is much easier than being a visual artist or a actor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can be a musician and no one can know who you are and you can still pay your bills.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can do that somewhat acting too, but you know, someone has to tell you action, give you a script, you know, like, you know, so
Yep.
you were really lucky in that way too, where like we can really just create whenever we want. It's
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
yeah, and exactly, and remotely. I mean, people I've spoken with are doing it from all over the country, all over the world. So, I mean, that's such a cool aspect of this thing too, is because as you mentioned, like collaborations, it's not just has to be people next door now; it can be anywhere, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so awesome.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. It's so great. Like I have a dream one day that I'll do like this tour and I'll just go visit every collaborator.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Right? That'd be so great. I'll just be like, and today featuring Jameson Nathan Jones.
Yeah.
here in you know, Louisiana.
Yeah.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, that would be really cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's awesome, and having these conversations too. It's just like it's sweet. I mean, over Instagram, you know. So it's so crazy. Yeah. Yeah. So one thing I wanted to ask about, because this is something I've found a lot of interest in, and there's been articles I've read around it where, because I come from more of like an electronic music background interest, right? And there's these bangers, right, where it'll be like Zed, and then it will be a vocalist. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I did a Zed cover with Adam Neely, and it's like,
oh
he's so
yeah.
Adam
I heard that.
So good.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I saw
his
that.
arrangements.
I think it was on was it YouTube only? Because I don't think it was on Spotify. Yeah. I saw that. That's awesome.
I think it's on. Yeah. It's on YouTube.
So what's that? I mean, that world is interesting, because I know that from what I read in these articles, and it might have changed since then, but sometimes it's like the producers put up on this pedestal, and the song, the singer on the song will oftentimes not really be in the forefront, or sometimes not even compensated for music. Is that something that's real in this industry, or is that something in the past, not so much as you've encountered? Or not to throw people under the bus who might be in electronic music, but I'm just interested as like, what's that world like as just the performer, like the singer on a song?
As the singer on a song with like DistroKid and stuff, that's gone a little easier to keep track of royalties. But as a singer, just try and hang on to your publishing. You'll see more money the more that you do on your own. Record labels, publishing companies, like, unless you're like really the top level, you're gonna make more money if you just like sit down, run your business, and do it yourself. Yeah. You know what I mean? I've been really lucky, and in the past few years I've only worked, like, Castro was amazing to work with. He was so
that's
sweet.
amazing.
Like, Castro was so sweet. He was like, they got my name wrong on like the first drafts of the cover, and he was like, it's Hannah Sumner. And I was like, yes,
that's awesome.
No, he's so nice. He's such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Like, he was incredibly sweet. Adam Neely, also incredibly sweet, and you know, it's just, he shares all of his opportunities and is always like, come on stage, let's do this. It's great.
That's cool.
I love performing with him.
I'm almost thinking that it might have been something that's kind of changed recently, because what I've understood is like record labels have changed how they work, and now the feedback I've gotten from artists who have been doing this for like 10, 20 years, like I've spoken with some guys in the electronic music world, like Deza, who's been doing this for like 15 plus years, and the world has changed, especially the collaboration piece, because it's like now with things like Instagram or ways to communicate more easily, you know the person you're working with, and you like are like, it's this community where people are kind to one another. So my guess is almost that no, not so much. Kind of.
They are. I mean, for me, it's like, you know, sometimes I've worked with amazing producers that just, like, for instance, one producer I worked with this one time, I will not say his name, but like, he put my name so, like, because I put in the contract, because I made him sign a contract, because he was just like so flaky. I
Yeah,
knew
yeah,
this
yeah.
was going to be a problem. So I was like, we're gonna do this ASAP.
Right.
That like my name had to be in all the like promo and all that.
Yeah,
'cause, like,
yeah.
I just could like, and instead
You
he
had to
made my name. He made it so small that you couldn't read it.
Oh, that's sketchy.
So then I had to change in my contract that it had to be like a certain font. Like I was just like, you live and you learn. But like I've like that guy is so talented, but I will never work with him again.
Wow,
Never.
that's
So talented.
and
but I will just
yeah.
no. And he is one of the few people that I've worked with that has not now since then gotten famous.
That's what I'm saying.
So.
I honestly feel like there's that's just so much of this thing because it's I mean, music is so emotional too. It's like you can't be creating something beautiful and like connecting with fans emotionally. I feel like there's a disconnect there if the person is behind the scenes taking advantage of people and being, I mean,
it happens all the time.
Yeah.
That people want to, and the greatest thing is like, it'll be really good exposure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah?
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
Well, you know what? I still have to do this for the rest of my life. Like,
yeah.
Show me the money.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I love it when these huge events are like, so will you bring your audio visual project in here? And like, it's going to be great exposure.
Yeah.
Millions of people. It's literally sponsored by every brand. And I'm like,
right.
You don't have, $5,000 at least to like put down. I know you do.
Yeah.
I know one. And like, that's the greatest thing too with commercials sometimes, like, or reality TV, they always leave the music for the last second and they want to pay you like pennies, and I'm just one commercial would cover my entire year.
Yeah.
What one commercial is paying to be in some spot, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. Is there,
but like when you start out, you take those like little,
totally. I mean, that's
$200. You're like, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And then eventually you have friends. Like for me, I realized recently, like I started to work with people and I would tell them my rate and then they would be like, okay, we're going to give you this. And it was like literally double or like 75% more.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just
that's
like,
awesome.
wow. Cause that's also a thing. No, but it is awesome, but it's also a thing like, for me, it's a whole, like, I've always had to deal with, like, am I worthy of, like, success? Am I worthy of this? Like, and that's still something that I'm battling to this day, which is why, like, putting out I never thought, like, it was so terrifying that I hardly wanted to, like, reach out to people and be like, to reach out to you and be like, yeah, we should talk about this on a podcast.
Right.
It was, like, really hard for me because to be like, you know what? It's good. It's good enough. It's good. I'm totally worth, like, people knowing about this. Oh, totally. God. It's like, but the more I do it, the easier it gets. You know what I mean? Yeah. And, like, and Simeon's so sweet. He's like, you're a rock star. This is amazing. I can't believe you made this. Like, so I'm just like, all right. He's a badass. He wouldn't say that. Just no, yeah. So.
It's
he doesn't say rock star because he's British. That was me. Like he'd be like, nope.
Right. It's funny because it is an interesting world because I mean it's this world where people making music are putting themselves out there, and it's if you're gonna make good music, you're exposing yourself and you're exposing this really kind of deep, intimate portion where however you were composing, you're exposing something, and then it's out there for the world to see and react to, and it's, I think for anyone across the board, it's, I mean, for me too, of course, it's stressful. You're like, you can have demos and I'll have demos I send to my friends, but really putting something out there, I'm like,
yeah, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. It's like anything. It's like absolutely everything in life. Right. You know what I mean? The more you do it, the easier it gets. So, so like, I'm just gonna, so that's why I'm just like, finished is better than perfect. Yeah. Literally just put it out there, see how it goes. You can always take it down, like, who cares? At the end of the day, we're floating on a rock in the middle of space. You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
That's what I always come back to that. I'm like, floating on a rock.
Floating. I love that. That's a great mantra. Floating on a rock. Floating on a rock. Floating on a rock.
Floating on a rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, yeah.
No, I mean, it is. You have to ground yourself, and you have to just be like, okay, we're gonna see where this thing goes, and that's for everyone. Yeah, and I love that. I mean, I think that's what I love about these conversations, and I hope to kind of bring to more of a conversation because, as I mentioned, like I feel like that's something I didn't have access to when I was a kid. Like I would think of bands like Blink-182, and I was like, okay, they're just gods. They can just write music, and it comes, but everyone's working. I mean, I'm sure that they had this crazy past where they were just writing horrible music out of the first, second year, and then it got a little bit better and better and better, and then suddenly it's, it's not this roll out of bed and
No. No, it's not the roll out of bed at 11. That's not a job. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, as who's the woman from SNL? Katie. She does Hillary all the time.
I'm not sure.
Anyways.
Yeah.
But she says, she's like, I've waited my whole life to be this busy. And I'm like, yes, that's
Right.
what it is. Like,
Right.
like you like what? Like when I'm not busy is when I will like sink into depression.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how every performer I know that
Yep.
I talk to, like, they're like, I'm just having the after show blues, because that's what happens.
Totally.
Like you said, you reach this goal and you're like, once I have that, then I will be happy.
Yep.
And then you reach it and you're like, oh, now nothing else can satisfy this. I'm gonna just fall into the
Right.
abyss and no one's gonna care. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And then
It's musicians, it's creatives. Yeah. For sure. It's these ups and downs, and I think creating it can get really addicting too, because you can sit for people out there like yourself, like myself, like you'll sit in front of your computer and something will click. You're like, oh yes, and it's like dopamine, serotonin spike,
Yes.
and then it kind of, it's this whole, right. And then,
Yeah. But the more you understand that too. And then also like a friend of mine had me identify my values, which really helps. He was like, there's 4 categories. There's health, there's family and friends, there's your partnership, and there's work. And you have to list, the 4. And so, but now that I listed them and I kind of altered them, so now my value isn't based on like my work. Like my value is based on my relationships, which are tied into my work.
Right.
Ta-da.
Right.
But like, you know what I mean? So then it just helps me put out work and not really care as much about like, oh, well, it didn't get as many likes. So
right.
I failed. It's
right.
like, whatever. Like, well, I'll live and do it another day. And like, and I'm always, and like at this point, like failing is so easy for me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
You know
Everyone has
like,
to fail. You have to fail. Like, it's not failing. It's just, that's part of success. Failing's when you like quit, when you're like, okay, I'll work at, wherever. I'll go do something else.
Also, quitting is super brave. And
yeah.
Quitting is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, if that's what you need to do, like,
that's
be
true.
brave.
Yeah,
if you're like, you know what? this isn't the lifestyle that I want.
Right.
Like,
right.
Be
I see
honest with yourself. To be that honest and like that's super brave.
That's a good point.
That's super brave.
Yeah, for real. Because I mean, being honest with yourself.
Try
if you're
something completely new.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
That's great.
For real. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, and having that honest conversation with yourself and be able to like be like, yeah, this is something's got to change. Whatever. I mean, that's totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so interesting because you were mentioning like putting stuff out and then being like, oh, this didn't get as many likes, whatever. I mean, now where it's like it's in this hyper state now with like Instagram and YouTube because you're like, how many views I get, how many likes
Literally
I get.
Your plays are on Spotify. It's like, this is your worth, your monthly listeners.
Yeah. I know.
And then it gets so hard to believe in yourself but then like you have to see past it. Like that's the new thing for me. I'm just like, all right. Everyone, literally every goddamn person I know and have worked with is just killing it.
Yeah.
So there's no reason.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just like, except for myself. And it's all, and it's like, and it goes back to inertia. In the past, I put the least amount of energy into my own stuff because I was so afraid to really believe in myself. So now I'm just like, all right. We're just gonna start putting work into it and see what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's so much easier for me to believe in other people than myself.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah.
Easy. I think that's everyone.
We look at other people and you're like, oh my god, you're so amazing. It's
I
like
know.
looking at a friend. You know what I mean? You're like, you're the best. I love you so much.
Yep.
Yeah.
You hear music, like I'll have demos sent from buddies. I'm like, oh my god, I need to stop making music. And then you're like, and then you'll send them music like, this is fucking good.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Those 22-year-olds that are like, oh,
I know.
God.
I know. But
like I mixed, produced, and wrote this in a day.
Yeah. But the one thing I think is so awesome about right now is, those people, like there's no more, like I don't think there's that famine mentality as there might have used to been as much because they can be successful. Like those, 21, 22 that like did everything in one day. Whatever. Like I want them to have success, but at the same point, everyone else out there that's working hard, I feel like can have success too, because there's so many people making music, making content. And there's these little like ecosystems where that artist is supported with like maybe Patreon or like YouTube or whatever. And then there's thousands of artists that I don't even know of that are just self-sustaining over here, and I may never even know them. Yeah, and they're just doing their thing and they're fine, you know?
Isn't that so funny when you happen upon a YouTube video and you're like, 5 million views?
Yeah.
Who is this person?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You're
Right.
like, what?
Right.
It's great.
Right.
It's great. And also I think about Patreon all the time. I'm like, so if I had $5 and I gave $1 to 5 people, and if everyone did that, like, you know what I mean? You choose 5 people.
Right.
Like, it's just crazy. Like,
Right.
then you get thinking about money and the way that works, and then it's just like a whole thing, and I'm just like, wow. But anyways.
Yeah. I think that's super important, is like support for artists, because it's something that, I don't know, it's really interesting. Like, there was this this interview with the CEO and founder of Spotify, and he had kind of this understanding early on when there was this weird shift in people buying discs from Sam Goody, you know, which is no longer, and everyone started downloading music. I mean, it is a really weird world that as consumers, we feel like music should be free because we want to stream on Spotify, or we want to download it illegally, and we feel like it should be $6 a month for all the music I could imagine in the world. And there's unfortunately, for whatever reason, less support as a species for artists and musicians. But I don't know. I think it's cool that there are things out there like whatever it is, Patreon, whatever, that now there's these little, like, one guy in particular I'm thinking of, Julian Gray. He he's a producer on Mousetrap. He's doing his thing. It's awesome. And he has this little Patreon community that supports him because he does lessons. He does fix your project stuff. And it's like, that's super cool. Now he can live his life as a producer and, get to do that full time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. We've all had to become Renaissance people. And I wouldn't say that, like, we as a species don't support the arts.
Yeah.
I would say that, like, capitalism doesn't really support the arts.
Right.
But that's fine. But anyways, and that's fine. I'm just being bitter. Also, like, society doesn't, but, like, as a species, we don't need art to survive.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need it to survive. This is something that we create because we have Seamless. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We get, we get to eat so we can make art.
Yeah. It's providing anything that provides a service. That's all, we're doing, basically. Every single person is providing a service.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely is.
Going back to Sam Goody and like them being wiped out. Like, there was like, but it's, it's ideas that wipe out the past.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was this new idea, this thing called the internet.
I know.
I remember when like .com started and my dad was like, that'll never take off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were like bankofamerica.com. My dad was like,
nah, I'm going to send my check in.
Well, look at you now.
Yeah.
No, now he like literally lives like a hermit in the most beautiful place in Northern California. So he did it like whatever.
Yeah, he did it right.
He's like, he's like, call me on my landline. Okay.
He's like, no, bankofamerica.com didn't take off. Like, he's just like, I don't even know what that is.
No, he's just like in there. That every once in a while I'll talk to him and he'll just be like, this conspiracy theory. Have you heard of this? No, he's not a conspiracy theorist, but he's not. I'm painting a terrible picture. My dad's very brilliant, but yeah. But yeah, he's living the hermit artist life. It's great.
Are they musicians? Your parents?
No, I have the same, like, I look exactly like my mother, sound exactly like my mother, but she's tone deaf.
Oh.
I'm the only one in my family that has a singing voice, except for there was like a great auntie who was in a traveling, like, not a circus, but like a traveling opera circus, like during the Dust Bowl era. Yeah. And she was pretty cool, I guess. And it's funny because now I do like immersive theater and I perform at House of Yes a lot, and like so it's kind of like, hey, it's in the blood, in the blood. But yeah, since I was 3 years old, I was just like, that's what I want to do. And my mom just like, and my first solo was in preschool, and I remember it. Like if it had a melody, I could remember it. That's the only reason I could do my times tables, because they put it to melody.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. That's super cool.
Yeah.
It's funny to hear kind of the background story of like what parents did, especially for singers, because singers are so talented. And both my parents are singers, which is weird because I can't sing, but music is like in my blood. Yeah.
I love it.
It's like, it's very, very, because
two singers. Oh my God.
I know. Everyone thought I was going
to
come out being this, everyone in my family, like, oh, you need to sing at Christmas. And I really am.
Right? They're like, you are the next Ariana Grande.
Down.
They were
yeah.
like, you are Ariana
They
Grande.
thought. I mean, big. Yeah. So that's so interesting because I don't know. You just, yeah. I came out loving music though, so that's kind of where it hit for me, I guess. Just growing up, I think growing up with music too. Was there like a lot of music in your household growing up then that kind of got you interested, or you just knew just on your own?
No, my parents always had good taste in music. And they lived in England briefly when I was a baby, as my dad got his master's.
Mm-hmm.
So we were listening to like Everything But the Girl and Tuck and Patty.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so strange. I always hated the radio. Other than John Mayer and Norah Jones when I was in high school, those were the only like mainstream things that I would listen to.
Yeah.
Everything else I was like, this is trash. But yeah, and we always had like Van Morrison, Counting Crows, Miles Davis. Yeah. Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday. Yeah, my parents always had good taste in music, and we also watched a lot of British television. I don't know if that, but anyways, that's why I wear the scarf.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to be on the BBC was like a big deal.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh my god, we grew up with that. Oh.
Yeah, I bet your parents freaked out. Yeah.
It was so cute. Yeah, Hannah Sumner. I was like, yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So I mean,
thank you, Simeon.
yeah. I've been chatting with him. I was like telling him I was really excited to do this conversation, so maybe he'll jump on too. So we'll see.
I mean, he's so sweet.
Yeah.
He's literally the nicest person.
Awesome. Yeah, this has been so cool. I've gotten this feeling too doing these. It's like, especially people who either are just like, yes, let's do it absolutely when you want, or you reach out to me. They're always the best conversations. And then sometimes I know there's been people in the past that I wanted to have come on and then they ultimately did not. And I can just tell, like, you don't even want to do that anyways. Like, you want someone that's going to be excited anyway. So, I don't know. I just, your willingness to reach out and like us start talking and being like, oh, this is so cool. Let's do this, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's been super cool. What's kind of on the horizon for, I mean, we're now like, over a quarter of the way through 2019, which is weird.
I know.
So what's all in the works for
oh my god,
future
so
stuff?
much stuff.
Yeah.
So much music. Oh my god.
I love it.
Yeah, Ricardo Romanero, the composer, and I have years worth of works putting out and shows that we're doing here in New York and abroad.
Oh damn.
And yeah, and I'm collaborating, of course, with everyone because, you know. And then I'm also working on a new EP, which so I'm going to be releasing just stuff that I do on my own, more productions that, just kind of one-offs. But there will be an EP that I'm working with a couple of the people from my first EP, To the Almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to, do the whole videos and like really solidify a concrete like whole idea and everything. Mm-hmm. So I'll be releasing a bunch of music, and then probably early next year. Early next year, a full EP that's like a full.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a
Mm-hmm.
And then you mentioned video component associated. Is that with this one? Is that what you meant with the video? Did I catch that right? With the EP? Okay, yeah. That'll be cool.
With the EP.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm always doing like audio-visual shows with Ricardo. So it's super cool. For how hard I was on myself a couple of years ago,
Yeah. Well, well, these podcasts too, I think are so cool because, we pause for whatever, an hour and just talk. And for me, at least it's like another like big, like, I just get super excited doing them. I'm in the middle of a conversation talking about stuff.
That's
and it's
good.
like this like big whatever serotonin dump. And then I think it's important to take a pause and think about those things like this is what I've been doing. This is what I'm really excited about. This is what I'm proud of, because it allows people to pause for a minute and not be on like I'm on Instagram all the time, now you just
no.
Yeah.
I try to post and not scroll.
Oh yeah.
It's so hard, but I try.
Yeah, it is really hard. I'm on it way too much. Yeah, but you take this moment just to kind of talk and reflect, and it's just, I think it's super super
I'm on
cool.
Instagram right now. No,
Yeah, just slowly I'm just typing. Yeah. Yeah. But man, I'm just really excited to be doing these, and this is so cool, and I just feel like
Good.
I'm getting more like I met you that's in this world. I'm meeting more and more people, and I'm really stoked to be doing these, and it's cool just to see the music you put out, talk about the releases, and when I started looking at more of your music and such, finding that track with Castro, who I had known of, I was like, "Boy, this is fucking crazy," because I'm kind of more in like the electronic world is so cool.
Well, I'm still like neoclassical is. I'm still always in the electronic world. You know what I mean? It's always electronic. It's just more down tempo, orchestral, cinematic.
Right.
Like I always in college, I was always like, if I can create music that feels like a warm bath, then I will be successful. And then I did that, and now I've done that for years, and I'm like, if I can do this, then I will be successful.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
right.
So now I'm just trying to laugh and enjoy life and
enjoy
these projects and work my butt off and put on some truly amazing art and shows.
Yeah. What I should have asked this earlier. Did you study music in school then too? So was that the driving force when you were in college? Is that part of it as well?
Yeah. I went to Berklee College of Music.
Awesome.
I was not the best student. I'm mostly. I mean, my grades were great, but like fine. They were fine, A's and B's. But but I definitely was like skipping classes to write songs. Because that made sense. And oh my God, my family will be like, "What?"
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Now I'm an adult. It's going great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was to study that. But before that, I had only done musical theater, so I really, because that was just the only outlet that was in my area, So, so it was really funny. The Berklee was the first time I got into songwriting, and it was because I showed up to the cafeteria, and some guy was like, "So what's your stuff like?" And I was like, and then I started to write music, and then I found out that I could improvise songs on a gig in college when my guitar player's amp stopped working, and we were doing like a little tour.
Yeah.
And so we just improvised the set, and I just like made up songs for the whole night.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was just something that like I could do. And I was like,
whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was kind of crazy. It was crazy. And like I could kind of remember the hook and like go back to it. And like they just played funk grooves all night. So it was like just like so it was easy. But
that's so cool. Yeah, because
it's so random.
Now that
random.
Because I mean, when you mentioned that, it reminded me. I was watching this interview with or this like mini documentary with Flume, this electronic artist, and he was working.
I love Flume.
Okay, awesome, good, yeah. I was just like maybe,
Hello.
okay, yeah. I love Flume as well. I mean, he's the best, and he was working with Mike Snow or the lead singer of Mike Snow, because Mike Snow is like a trio, and I forget the guy's name actually, but he was saying that when they were working on this track, the guy went and he was listening to the music and was just literally kind of improvising there, singing into his iPhone, right, just like whatever came out, and then maybe even for like an hour, just re-listening the track, and then okay, this is the section I want to stick with. Here's the verse, here's the melody. It's so cool because it's like this it's a balance between improvisation and like just having this kind of creative flow, and then seeing what comes out of it. Yeah,
that is what it is, and it's great like to have that skill and be in an age where it's like content.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
You're like it's only a quarter and you've released all these things, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have.
Yeah.
That's strange.
Yeah.
I didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the best position to be in for sure.
But like I haven't released much music compared to all the music that I've just sat on and been like, it's not good enough. It's not ready. So now and I've shown it to so many people at this point, and they're all like, this is sick, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna release these. And I've even shown them to like mixing engineers that I trust, and they're just like, I think this is done. Do you want me to mix it? I think it's done. And I'm just like,
that's a good sign. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Do you do everything? You were saying you were recording this in Ableton, so is all the work in Ableton? Yeah.
I mean, I might upgrade to Pro Tools. I have so many things like I'm like getting the KRK.
No.
I'm like, woo.
Yep.
go me, big girl.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, Ableton's awesome. I use Ableton, especially in electronic music, as you're in. I feel like most people are Ableton. Then a lot of the people who are kind of in film scoring world are Pro Tools. For I don't know what, because in electronic music it seems only to be Ableton and FL. Which, screw FL.
I mean, Ableton.
Yeah.
But Ableton for electronic music is, and especially for live.
Yeah.
If you're gonna play live with your electronics, I think Ableton is definitely it's the best way to go.
Yeah.
For audio, Pro Tools probably the best.
Right.
And I use that in some studios that I work in, but yeah, as of now, I'm just doing everything in Ableton.
Yeah.
Well, usually with my little SM58, just being like, I'll re-record this later. Oops.
Yeah.
Oops.
But that's so cool because I mean, what I think would be really cool is people that see this because they love your music will get this behind the scenes look and be like, okay, it's Ableton and an SM, was it 57, did you say? Which one?
SM58.
58. SM58 and KRKs.
No, but like I also use like...
No, I know. But just kind of, kind of reveal. I mean, I think that there can sometimes be a misconception that people are like, oh, it's $100,000 studio and I need this.
No.
It's awesome.
And literally, like in Found, you can hear, because I have a backyard on my room, and in Found you can hear birds chirping in part of it because like there's
that's cool though.
In my backyard. Yeah. I know, and my friend was like, "Did you put the birds in on purpose?" And
Where did you get the Foley?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was like, "I love it so much."
Right.
But you know what? Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, Simeon probably didn't even notice. He's like, "What?" Played on BBC. It's birds chirping.
No, it's sweet.
Yeah,
because people will go and they'll pull in like a Foley track that's birds, but it's like, hey, I mean, screw it. Yeah.
I mean, but that's the thing about recording too is like when there's the magic there, then that's what it is.
That's what it is.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I've gone back and re-recorded, and a lot of times producers are just like, I'm keeping the first take. I don't even care if some of the lyrics don't make sense. Like I'm keeping, because I'll like just like vomit, and they're like, there's just magic in that.
Right.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, to try and make sense of like, I mean, Bjork and Radiohead are so poetic, and that's kind of like more of when I'm making music for myself, that's where I'm kind of at, is because it's like the stream of consciousness. I swear. Yeah. And I mean, this is going to sound, I shouldn't even say it out loud. I shouldn't. But I would say like in college, like I read a lot of like Rumi, and that became like my thing. And I swear that there's so many elements that I took from that. I was like, he taught me how to songwrite.
Yeah.
So cheesy.
Yeah.
Don't put that in.
You can't now. It's no.
Oh, God.
I can do edits, but no, that's cool.
No. I'm just kidding. You can do it. It's fine.
That's one thing. So I found it's really cool because if I've been working on music recently where I've always been like more like electronic music, and then if I'm coming up with like an idea where I want to have a vocalist, it's all melody, and it took me like 6 months. I'm like, oh, I'm horrible at writing lyrics. Like no words come to my head. I can kind of work with a melody. I'm like, okay, this would fit for a verse, this would fit for chorus or whatever. But so that's really interesting. Then do you think that there was some influence where early on in life reading a lot and just getting exposure to these different art forms with words actually kind of influence how you're able to work in that process? Or is it
When I first moved to New York, I was so poor. I had a library card to the public library, and I lived in Bed-Stuy like 8 years ago. Bed-Stuy, which if anyone knows, anyways. But and I had a public library card, and I would just go through the poetry section. I also did this in college in Newbury Bookstore on Newbury, and like I would just go through the poetry section, and I'd open up poetry books, and if I liked it, I would take them. Yeah. Which sounds, I know, just like. But that's what I would do. And so I got into poetry, and I guess that, but not in like oh, I'm so into poetry. It's just like, oh, this is a really beautiful way to say a lot with a little. Right. And I liked, it was so visceral, which I think is something that's pretty like a common theme in my music is very visceral. And I know that I write a good song when I can see the music video as I'm like finishing it up. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's how I know that I've created that. I'm like, oh, this is a one. You know what I mean? This is a song because I can see the music video. Yeah. And And I also like already have to like forgive myself for all the terrible music that I'll put out, because now I'm just like, I'm going to put out everything, so like, but it's like my opinion, and Sia's out there being like, who am I to say that pop music is shit,
right.
And it's like, yeah,
right.
Because I knew her from 07, and then she came out with like Chandelier, which was awesome.
Yeah. She's really interesting because she, as you mentioned, she's been doing this forever, and she's a ghostwriter and all this stuff, and now she's full in on pop, which I love. Like I've kind of taken this path where I'm getting really interested in writing pop music, and I'm getting really fascinated with ghost producers and people that are behind the scenes doing the singing, songwriting, all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, screw it. Like if you find that that's, especially pop, I guess I'm kind of justifying this now, but if you find that that's what you enjoy, like screw it, You go do.
I mean,
do
not
what
even enjoy, but like if you can do it, like
that's
whatever.
true too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you like we all enjoy making music. You know what I mean? Like there's projects that like have our whole soul, and there's projects that have like 50% of our soul.
Yeah.
But so whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's all like not, you have to like not care so much. It can't be like, this is who I am.
Right.
But then that works for some people too. But I just burn out that way when I'm like, this is everything. Yada.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this just today, is like working. I think it's really important to work and just start working on a track and be like, hey, this is it from start to finish, and then sit on it, versus like, I'm going to sit here until I'm working on like my top 10% tracks. Like those 10% are going to come, but work on all these other things, and then those can sit in the back burner. Maybe you release them, maybe you don't, but don't just stop and wait until like the perfect eureka aha moment comes. It's just like, keep putting out music, keep working. You'll get those gems in just that working process. Yeah.
The woman who created the Chi-Town series, she wore a shirt to an award ceremony that said, keep putting out good shit until someone notices. I was like, yep.
That's sick. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, she's a badass, but she's again, it's these people that are writing, producing, directing, they're like doing everything. And then, also I think it's, for me now, it's like, okay, now I have to get a hobby.
Yeah.
Like, self-care now that I'm like made this my career, I'm like, I have to get a hobby. So now I'm like, okay, but I'm signed up for improv classes.
Oh, cool. For real.
Improv.
Yeah.
I mean, hello. No, but yeah. So it's like, let's take improvisation over here. And like, cause that was the only part of acting class I was ever good at, was like the opening, like, okay, improvised sketches. That was the only part that I was ever good at. So, and I was really good at it. So I'm just going to do it. Whatever. Anyways, because I'll be really good at it. No, I'm just kidding. I probably won't. And my biggest fear is that it'll just be a room filled with losers, and then I'll have to admit that I am just like one of them.
Yeah, but, no, I mean.
It'll be like people that live alone with their cats. They're just like.
Yeah, though, I don't know. So one thing, I feel like I've been laughing this whole podcast, so that's got to honestly say, for real, seriously, like that says something right there. And
we're a neoclassical artist. I know. I should be like
hello. Yeah.
I should be like, yes, it was very serious.
Right.
Life is very serious. No.
Yeah, but it's cool too, because like I'm also, I think with podcasting, there's this weird overlap now between podcasting and comedy. Like all these comics have podcasts, like Joe Rogan.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
So I've been listening to all these guys, and they'll talk about,
got a podcast
for real. Yeah. But where they start, they're always talking about like, oh, the first open mic I did 30 years ago, and talking about, and I mean that's in a sense, you're kind of jumping into improv in the same sense there with like open micing. It's almost in the same world, and they're like, it just wasn't like I am today. Like they start somewhere, and it's those.
But I'm just picking it up as a hobby. Just
no,
like,
I know.
Like,
yeah.
Okay.
But still,
it's still. I'm like, I need to do something besides.
I get what
music.
you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. See, I'd pick it up and I'd be like, this is something new I'm going to do. It's good to have a bounce where this is like a hobby. That's really good to be able to, because my mind always immediately goes there. I'm like, something I need to like, this is a new thing I'm going to do. And then my girlfriend paused me and she's like, you have way too many things going on. I'm like, oh yeah.
I know, that's the thing too. That's the thing too, though. Like, I know I'm at that point too where I'm just like, okay, there's too much going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, yay.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like,
waited my whole life to be this busy, and I only want to be more busy.
Right. I like that. I want to. Yeah. There's been like a lot of a lot of like poignant quotes, I feel like, in this, like that one, and then
Do we have
t-shirt.
a pop up like?
Yeah. And the t-shirt. Yep. Yeah.
And the what?
The t-shirt that you were mentioning that she was wearing at the award ceremony, where it's yeah. Until someone starts noticing. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just it's so cool, and I mean, I love doing these, and seriously, like if down the road, like whatever, 6 months, a year, you want to knock out another one of these when more music is out. I mean, I think we just knocked out like over an hour, and it flew by in like felt like 10 minutes, you know? Yeah, it's just so cool. But I really appreciate you doing this. This has been super cool.
No, thank you, and I'm so sorry about it.
No. Oh, actually,
I even wrote you that day and was like, looking forward to tonight. And then they were like, hey, do you want to do Bonnaroo? And I was like, yes.
Yeah, no.
I do.
I actually want.
I will do anything. And then they like wanted to hang out afterwards. They're like, you should come out. And then I just got drunk and did not think about it. Telling you the truth. Telling you the truth.
Hey, no, that's fine.
Woo!
For real. And we made it work. So I seriously, I don't mind. But I want to hear about that, because that's something I was like, I should actually fucking ask about that, because Bonnaroo is sick. So before, I mean, I feel like I keep going on tangents, but what was that like? Bonnaroo is, sorry, go ahead. I mean to jump in.
Yeah, so it's for so I like know in my head that I'm gonna get into all the places through the back door. Like even in the classical, like because I work in this neoclassical world, but like Ricardo has put me on stages with ensembles and conductors and like opera singers, right? I'm like with these opera singers that are like pretty big deals in their community, and then like he's just like, you're on stage, you're doing this duet with them, and I'm like and like I'm like, oh my god, I'm not an opera singer. Like the first time I did one, I was so ashamed. I was like, the audience clapped for me and I was like, I can't accept this applause. I'm not a real opera singer. You know what I mean? And then like I look back on the tape, and like everyone was like freaking out about like my performance, because I was like actually expressive, whereas opera singers a lot of times are told to stand very still when they perform. So, and because an audience member doesn't know about training, so they were just like, oh, this singer expresses and uses her, I always call it the diva arms when I teach, but it's like, you know, because like the second I started to hit high notes and do something like this, people were like, oh, she knows what she's doing. Okay. You know, same note, whatever. But, so anyways, with the Bonnaroo thing, it's with this immersive theater group. That I've called Little Cinema that I've been a part of. And yeah, so it's like, it's, you know what I mean? It's like,
that's cool.
Like I'm gonna get this somehow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
that's so cool. So what will it be like at the? Is it how's that incorporated into Bonnaroo? Is there like sections where it's performance art, like immersed in the? Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's just gonna like this is their second year doing it.
Yeah,
and it's gonna be it's a whole immersive show that so it's a circus, music, and film.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and it's really cool. They're really great to work with. They always let me kind of like create pieces for them, and and Ricardo's on it too. So Ricardo Romanero, so it'll be fun.
So cool. That's so cool. It's like, and again, like just as you mentioned, like the other people that you've already started working with, now they're kind of coming along, and it's this whole thing moving forward. And I really believe that with this kind of world, and then I have the same conversations with the guys who are releasing on Mousetrap, and it's like, everyone's supportive of one another, then the collaborations come together, and it's like these kind of groups of people come up together, and I think it's not like, oh, you have to have X, Y, and Z before you're in the group. It's just like they're cool people, and they're bringing something new and interesting and exciting to, like, they'll share a track, and then other people will be like, wow, this is really, really cool, and then suddenly you're kind of you're moving along with this wave, and it's so cool to see that, and it's cool to talk about it, and I'm so grateful and lucky, but it's also because like I can do so many things. So I think that for me that worked out, that the fact that like I can do so many genres, I just became a really good singer, and I have a really broad range, you know, perhaps to me. No, but I like worked really hard at it. Yeah.
So it's like so that path worked for me. You know what I mean? But now it's time for me also to, you know, buckle up and be like, all right, I am worthy of success, and I should start making opportunities for my friends. You know, that's like my biggest thing now. I'm like, I want to make some big ass opportunity that I can bring all the people that help me out.
Cool.
You know what I mean? Like that's like my new goal. I'm like, I want to like get a gig that I'm like, hey, you want to come on this with? And I already have some of that. So I'm like starting to, you know, be like, hey, you should be on you should do this venue with me. I have a way to book it. Like, you know, let's do this. Yeah. Like, cause it's all helping one another. And like most of the time we already have the tools that we need to make all this stuff happen. Yada, 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 yada. Okay. Anyway.
No.
I've just been like one self-help book. My self-help book would be called Dumb and Determined. That's like my biography is like Dumb and Young, Dumb and Determined. That's my biography.
Yeah. That's like, no, but that's honestly like a theme of this podcast. And what I love about it is because I want people to see like, this is just behind the veil. Like this is what's happening. And it's not impossible. It's hard work. And again, I love that. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And keep working with people that believe in you, that like Ricardo was one of the first people that like really was like, oh my God, like he really validated me as a singer, you know, and of what I wanted to do, which I had no like really right to be thinking that I could be a part of a neoclassical scene. You know what I mean? Like just, I was a contemporary singer, like, you know, so he was one of the first people to really put me on some stages that kind of stretched me a lot. Yeah, he really stretches me as a performer, and I realize now that that's just the way I work. I need accountability and I need validation. So I like it when someone's like, all right, I'm going to give you this task. And I'm just like, I really don't want to let you down. I will I will watch the YouTube videos. I will get it done.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I love being a collaborator, because then it works out so well for me to get that validation of like, oh, this is amazing. Oh, can you change that thing?
Right.
And I'm like, okay, you know, like it's so great to bounce ideas off another person.
Yeah.
So when I make a track all by myself, like I'll still send it, like to even have Simeon and be like, hey, do you like this? And he'll be like, yeah, what are we making an album? You know, so I was like, oh, cool. So that was a validation for me. But like if I had just made it by myself, it would have been like so that's why I love collaborating.
Right.
Because you get to bounce ideas off and you get this accountability from the other person, because it's like, okay, they gave you your talent, they gave you your time.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really important to notice too, because I think some people will want to come up with something and then just hold on to it, you know, and like no input from other people. But it's cool that you notice that collaborative experience really is something that you work well with and you appreciate if it's the right person, you know, giving you the proper feedback and really kind of this, it has to be right. But I think that's really important to notice, because I think I've seen that in myself a little bit, where I'm like, kind of like, this is an idea, but I'm going to hold it too close, you know, but
yeah,
that's yeah.
That's again what I'm saying though. They're like, oh, this is so precious.
Right.
This is like this thing, you know, it's like, it's not really that precious.
Right.
Like we're all here. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's music. You know what I mean? No one's going to die.
No one's gonna...
if you don't put it out, no one's going to die if you do. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like we make it into our head be like, this is everything.
This is
and
it.
It's like it is, but it isn't. You know, like
right.
Like you could have a bad show and no one's gonna die. You know what I mean? So that for me, that helped take some of the pressure off, because I was just like so much pressure all the time, just like this has to be everything. Yeah. And then the second I was like, it was all like, ooh.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the faucet. Like I had so much pressure, I was like holding it off. Like I always felt like I was a bull, like hitting the wall, and the door was like right there. You know what I mean? Like I was just like bam, bam, but really like someone just like opened the door recently. It was like, have you been over here long? Have you been doing this for a while?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And man, I feel like that in itself is like just this, like that could even just be a topic, like understanding where you're, as you mentioned, like hitting a wall and you're like, this has got to be it. This like, and just giving, like taking the pressure off a little bit, just being like, this is what I'm going to do. Like I'm going to put, and then I think as you've mentioned, like that almost like the ball's rolling more when you just take the pressure off. You're like, I'm going to be me. I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to work with other people, blah, blah, blah. And it's like this positive energy going into it is like making something even more out of it than you even thought. It's like counterintuitive.
Totally counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Totally counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Like that's the greatest thing. Like I think about Bjork, who created Vespertine, which is like the best album and still holds up today. And like somehow she was like 30 years ahead of her time. What?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm just like, and I was talking to a friend of mine and he was just like, that woman never gave a fuck. She just never gave a fuck. And it's so true. And I'm just like, and like the other day I went to like, I gave myself a day off and I like, went to a spa and then I walked out of New York with like zero makeup on and I was all wet still. I didn't blow dry my hair and I was just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck it. I'm going to ride the subway. No makeup on.
Yeah,
I'm probably
yeah.
going to run into someone that I know. They're going to be like, aren't you? And I'm going to be like, no.
No.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so yeah. So it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That.
That's what I mean. Like, the more that I'm just like, anytime I get insecure, I'm just like, fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I knew I was a New Yorker, actually, was when I walked up, like when I finally went out in Manhattan, like on a weekend, and like instead of being like, oh my God, everyone can tell that I'm like not supposed to be here, like that I don't have like the designer clothes. I was just like, fuck it, I pay my own bills.
Yeah.
I don't have a daddy paying my rent. You know what I mean? I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The second that I walked out of Manhattan, was like, fuck you. That's when I was like, okay.
I love it. Yeah. Seriously.
So that if that's positivity, then great.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
But, yeah.
No, I just.
We all try for that. Like, you don't hit it every day,
right.
Obviously.
But yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because, like, yeah, as you mentioned, like counterintuitive. Like, once you can allow yourself kind of just to relax, not give a fuck. You're gonna put out different stuff. The music's gonna be a bit different, but it's gonna be more true to you. And I think that's what people are gonna tune into and be like, oh, this is unique. Yeah.
When it's truth, that's when when it's the truth.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, man. This has been awesome. For real. Like, I love doing these. I feel like I could go just hours and hours and hours and talk about, creative stuff and
the
past.
Yeah, we'll bring it down. I need to refill my wine. So,
I finished my beer. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, seriously, like, really, this has been super, super cool. And, if we want to knock one out whenever, I'm seriously down.
Of course.
And then also
we'll always do it. That's what I'm saying. Like, collaborating, connection. It's all like, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And then when you start that tour, hit Arizona. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait to tour the U.S.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't wait until like I can go out and like just have my parents be able to like not have to fly anywhere to see.
Yo, yeah. Just be like starting in California, make your way back across the country.
Oh my God, totally.
Yeah.
I'll probably have to do it with just piano players. Like, that's what because I like know all piano players. So I'm like, I'm just gonna go with like my sheet music and my electronic setup and just be like, Jameson, you want to hop on these dates?
Yeah.
Simeon, you want to hop on these dates?
Yeah.
So
that could easily happen. I mean, it will for sure. I know it.
Yeah.
Like
I said it out
we
loud.
said it. Yeah. For sure.
So now, yeah. Cool.
I love it. Well, thank you again. Seriously, this has been awesome.
Yeah. No, thank you. It has been really cool.
Yeah. Cool.
You have a really good thing going.
Thank you.
You're an awesome interviewer.
Thank you.
I definitely want to know more about your music. So
Yeah.
send me email and
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. Yeah.
I definitely want to know more about your life. This is all me.
No, for sure. Yeah, I'll send you some music and then there'll be more of these. Like, I just had the first return guest, the last episode that just went out, Jorgen Keldrin, and so these are just gonna keep happening. Like, I want to do, it'll be like episode 100 and we'll have no, but we'll be like, this will be like the fourth, fifth time we've done an episode. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Good things, man.
Yep.
Cool.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.